Good afternoon, it's 5 o'clock, it's the locker room, and my name is Graham Duffy, and we are here every Friday from 5 till 7. We're going to be discussing the big topics from this last week, and I am delighted to be joined by my two main guests, of course. It's Mr. Regan Stevenson and Mr. David Smith. Regan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Michael. I'm glad that we've got a bit of peace and quiet with Michael this week. He's sunning himself in Greece, and like I say, I'm just glad to get some peace and quiet with Michael and speak to you two for a change.
Good stuff. And I'm also joined by my regular guest. It's David Smith. David, how is it?
Yeah, you, Michael. We're all good, Graham. Very well. Graham Duffy, let's get on with the show.
I was letting that slide that Regan come with Michael there. So we've got a lot to look back on from this last week, including the Champions League draw and Europa League draw. And there's only one place to start. And because I'm a Hearts fan and because I'm hosting, I can do this. Let's start with Hearts. So last night, Hearts played the second leg of the Europa League qualifier against FC Zurich at Tynecastle. Hearts going down by 1-0. To be honest, it was a great first half performance. We now drop into the Conference League draw, which I'll get to in a second. But firstly, Regan, what did you make of the game last night?
Well, it definitely wasn't Hearts glorious. Jam Tarts, Graham, but I said it to you when I come on this show at 5:15, Graham. I'm surprised about the referee. I mean, that tackle from I think it was Rose, the Hearts player. The tackle that he endured in the first half should have been a sending off. And I'm surprised that less people haven't mentioned it, because for me it was a definite red card. You totally seen the force in the tackle, and for the referee not to even brandish a card, it was brandishing cards to Robbie Nielsen's side 24/7. But overall, I thought ours played well. I mean, the first half they played really well. They probably should have scored through Forrest, through Shankland, through Boyce. I thought they played well, and to be honest, I think the sending off changed the game. If you look at it, I mean, I think it was something like 76%. You never see a Scottish team in Europe have 76% possession. I thought Hearts played really well. They'll probably not get as much credit as they should get, because they were beaten last night, obviously, Graham. But I thought they done really well, and we'll get on to their group stage draw soon, I suppose. But I think overall, Robbie Nielsen would be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, for a minute last night, I thought Kevin Clancy was refereeing that game. But I completely agree. I thought that's, for 76% possession for Hearts, I don't think I've ever seen Hearts dominate possession like that against anybody. And Dave, it was just a case of that first half. For all the possession we had, we just couldn't get that breakthrough goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hearts were on the side that said they were providing a lot of pressure at FC Zurich, and it looked like the goal was coming. As we were discussing in the group chat, I missed the first half. I caught the highlights back, but as we were saying in the group chat last night during the game, obviously when George Grant got sent off for Hearts, which I thought was initially a ridiculous decision from the referee, but having looked at it in a completely different angle, I thought it was a sending off. Looking at another angle,
Dave, I'm all for the referee sending George Grant off. Sorry for putting in there. But I'm all for the referee sending George Grant off. But it was
but you haven't raised one particular point yet, and it's an easy prediction to what point I'm going to raise. Guess what point I'm going to raise here?
What point is that? Dave, on you go.
The Scottish refs are completely different from the European referees, right? Which means if that had been a Scottish referee, that was a Hearts penalty last night. Because it's a European referee, nah. See you later, George Grant. Off you go. It's completely different. And had that been a Scottish Premiership Scottish Premiership game, pardon me, I think that was a Hearts penalty. I think it's because it was a European game, the reason why Grant got sent off.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dave. But then you would say the inconsistency of the referee, it was a disgrace. I thought he was like, no, I'm no Hearts cheerleader here, but I thought the referee, he was totally out of his depth.
Well, we can say about every Scottish Premiership referee just now.
Well, Dave, I have to disagree for a second there, because I thought the referee in the PSV Rangers game was outstanding. I think somebody said on a different radio station last night that this guy had played at the top level. I think that showed because he was totally good. He let the game flow. There was quite a few tackles, but this guy was a player, so he knew what it was like. He, he let players break it up. He didn't brandish cards every 2 minutes. Like I just think, see every opportunity last night, right? The Zurich players were going down. They were buying free kicks, and the referee. He should have known what was happening. He should have spotted it right away, but he didn't.
I do think that the first challenge, the first yellow card for Grant was very harsh. I think he wins the ball. But then once you've got that yellow cards, you can't be doing what he did in the second half. But Hashbury Stumble comes in here and says, in my humble opinion, Hearts' first half performance was one of the best I've seen. I agree. And he also says that Alec Cochrane made so many long balls from deep left to the right wing. He was the man of the match. And again, I can't disagree with that, although I do think Cammy Devlin was also excellent. And again, in that first half in particular, I don't know how many times Barry Mackay picked up a great ball. He played Liam Boyce in. And for me, the biggest frustration last night for me, Dave, was the fact that there was a couple of times where Liam Boyce has a real chance to shoot and he takes an extra touch. I think if that falls to Lawrence Shankland, I think Hearts score.
Are you on about Barry Mackay? Sorry, Graham, man.
There was a chance where Barry Mackay
Are you on about Barry Mackay?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I will say, I'll put a positive slang in this before I answer your question. He's got to be knocking on the Scotland door. He's got to be knocking on the Scotland squad door, in my honest opinion.
He has to.
But when you look at last night's performance, I think he showed again how consistent he's been in the Hearts jersey, getting into good areas. But it's Achilles' heel, as you touched upon. It was like a recurring theme last night where he played it, he made the extra touch instead of playing the ball, Boyce playing the ball to Shanklin. I mean, we'll speak about Liam Boyce in a minute, but on to Barry Mackay, he was maybe taking that extra touch when you don't really get that sort of opportunity in European football compared to up here in Scotland. European football is a different position to Scottish football. And I think we're seeing that with performances from Digit and Motherwell to North of recent, and obviously Hearts to a certain degree over the two legs. I think you're noticing there's a complete difference between Scottish football and European football, but that's another conversation another day. But Barry Mackay, I thought, was excellent, irrespective of that. And there's not any plaudits that come his way, and there's a lot of pundits today, understandably, saying that he should be knocking on the Scotland door.
Yeah, I want to ask Graham, because you'll know better than me, but how much do you get for the Conference League?
I think it's about 2.8 million.
That's still not bad. That's still all right.
I think it's about just over 3.1 million for the Europa League, which would have been great. But listen, I'm not disappointed with that. I knew we had that backup plan. But I think for me last night, and I'm going to touch on it just now, Reagan, is the fact that there was a couple of times last night, and especially just before the end of the first half, I think it's a great cross in from the right-hand side, and Liam Boyce, he heads it down.
Oh,
and he gets over the bar. For me,
score.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, again, I think if that's Lawrence Shankland, that's in the back of the net.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I don't know about you, Graham, but I kind of think Liam Boyce is kind of dried up a little bit over the past 6 months. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if he's getting older a little bit, or he's just not got that clinical edge that he had. Obviously,
Is it a confidence thing?
It possibly is. I've never played football, so I can only judge.
Graham, do you think it's a confidence thing?
I think it is, but I also think that his nose is a bit out of joint because Shankland's there now, and I think it's forcing him to play a lot deeper. And I think he looks desperate for a goal.
Surely competition strives you on, because if you look at Rangers the other night, I mean, Alfredo Morelos, right? No one can convince me otherwise. See the reason why he got sent off the other night? It's because of Cholak. It's because of the competition. Alfredo Morelos did not like that he's now got competition. His nose is out of joint, and that's what I totally agree with Dave. It's probably the same with Liam Boyce. This time last year, Liam Boyce was the main man with Mackay, with Devlin, and for me, that's the difficulty that Robbie Nielsen. But I did hear you say last week, Graham, that Robbie Nielsen's looking to add in the attacking areas, so he needs to get used to the competition coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think Usain will help? Do you think Usain will help, Graham? He's a weight style player, are you?
That's a good question. I can't pronounce the guy's name. Hang on. He's a midfielder from Germany, and he is called Orestes Kiyomursoglu. Don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's a
Try
midfielder.
saying that on a Saturday night run drunk.
Oh my God, you need a few Heinekens, but yeah.
Try saying that now, and that's without a drink. But yeah, I mean, that might help. But I think, to be honest, looking at the game overall last night, and I completely agree with Hashbury Stumble here, Dave. I mean, I know you've only seen bits of the game, but genuinely, that first probably 50 minutes is one of the best I've seen from Hearts for a long time. And it just lacked that bit of a clinical finish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Zurich were there for the taking to an extent. I mean, Zurich won't be the best side. I'll go as far as to say I don't think it's the best side Hearts will play this year. I think you'll play far bigger and better sides in the Europa Conference League this season, depending on how you get on. Obviously, I think Fiorentina are arguably a better side at this precise moment in time. And I'd argue Istanbul, I won't pronounce their second name, are a better side than Zurich.
Big Shashir.
Basak Shahir. There you go. Who's a natural professional?
Exactly.
Don't forget.
Because they finished fourth in the Turkish League last year. I didn't realise how pitiful a campaign Galatasaray had in the Turkish League last year. They finished above Besiktas, which is some achievement. Trabzonspor won the Turkish League last year. I think a lot of people are going, we should be getting 6 points out of 6 out of RPS. And yes, they very much should be. But I think Istanbul's a great opportunity for Hearts as well. I think there's a big opportunity here for Hearts. I think they've got to rectify one or two things. One, first and foremost, in the forward areas of the park. And secondly, be a little bit more diligent defensively. By the way, I'll just go and shut my window because you've probably just had an ambulance in the background there.
Reagan, I'm going to touch on a negative in a minute, which I don't want to, but I'm going to. But I'm going to touch on the positives first. For me, again, last night, that is one of the best performances I've seen from Cammy Devlin in that midfield. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. A bundle of energy, looking to get the ball forward. I thought Cammy Devlin was absolutely superb last night.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. I've always rated Cammy. I think he's got a bit of bite about him. It kind of reminds me of Scott Brown a little bit. He's kind of got that nasty streak. It kind of doesn't bother him what is happening. But I think if you look at Hearts, I would want to ask you, Graham, because somebody that's been good the last couple of years, but I think now he's at the end of his time is Peter is it Haring? I think Peter Haring, watching him the last two games, he looks a bit off it for me.
Peter Haring divides a lot of opinions. A lot of Hearts fans, like myself, do rate him, and a lot of folk think he's a bit too slow. I can understand the kind of reaction to that, but I think Haring has a lot of experience. But when this new German boy comes in, for me, we've also got Benny Maringame to come back. I think Peter Haring's time might be coming to an end at some point, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's
playing out of position.
No, to be honest, see when we signed Peter Haring, I think he was signed mainly as a centre-back, but he's very rarely played there. He's been playing midfield, and I think he's only really played centre-back when we've lacked options there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think another positive I want to take from last night, Dave, and again, I know you've only seen parts of the game, but I thought Alan Forrest in that first half was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, 100%. No, I've seen enough to suggest that Alan Forrest did have a decent enough game for Hearts last night. He's a player that shows a real level of trickery, tenacity, and he's a player that can cause problems for opposition sides. We've seen that time and time again on several occasions for Livingston last season, where he can get to dangerous areas and cause team problems. And he's going to create that same problem again for Hearts this time around. I think him on one side and Barry McKay on the other side will create a lot of problems for opposition sides, and it's a real asset for Robbie Nelson to have, as far as I'm concerned, because you don't want to be going down the route of playing a 4-2-3-1. You want to have two wide players or two wingers. The 4-2-3-1 works to an extent. You want wide players, you want to stretch the game to an extent, and that's exactly what Forrest and Mackay brings.
I'm going to touch on a slight negative. Now, this might be controversial, and I've been slagged off for this on another podcast, but I'm going to say it anyway. For me, Toby Sibic is not good enough. Now, the goal we conceded last night, a lot of folks said, it's not Toby Sibic's fault, you can't blame him. But again, defensively, he was very poor last night. It's a long ball played down. Sibic has no idea where the ball is. He gets caught, he gets turned. and we lose the goal. And he'd only been on the pitch 2 minutes. Now, Reagan, I don't know if you've seen a lot of Toby Sibbick, but for me,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of him.
for me, Toby Sibbick is not a centre back.
For me, Toby Sibbick is kind of, how would I say it? He's got that Daniel Stendhal syndrome, where he's still kind of like, remember he played that great game against Rangers about 4 years ago under Daniel Stendhal, and then Hearts fans wanted him to sign, and then when he signed under Stendhal, they're all gone mental. Like, right, fair enough. He said those 2 games he's played well. I don't remember him being a commanding centre half. And if I'm being critical, probably if you look at last week when he comes on, he's the kind of instigator for the 2 goals. He kind of loses his man for the goals, and I think if you're talking about Craig Halkett or Toby Sibbick, I think you're definitely choosing Craig Halkett over him, because I think, and I don't know what you think, Graham, but I think if you're Robbie Nielsen, you're looking to add in that area between now and next Friday.
Well, I know that he is looking to try and sign a centre back. And Dave, you might know a lot more about this than I do, but I mean, I've already said I'm not a massive fan of Toby Sibbick. Surely it must be a chance for Lewis Nielsen to come in and get some game time.
You were having a right good argument with another podcaster on that
group
chat today, because I was on that specific group chat in question. But I did see something from a Dundee United fan today, actually, because Michael Stewart, I think, said something in BBC last night about needing a left side centre half. Left, is it right? Left?
Right.
Right, beg your pardon. Sorry, right, pardon me. I think Lewis Nielsen would fit the build that Hearts are looking for. I mean, replacing somebody like of John Suter's ilk is always going to take a long time. At the same time as well, you're speaking about a Peter Hyland that is arguably playing out of position or playing in the midfield area because of a lack of bodies that haven't come in yet, like Baningame and the youth player not coming from Germany. You're speaking about Sibbick, and arguably when you look at it, you know Craig Halkett last night either, and that was a massive miss, I felt, just in terms of the way he conducts his game, the way he approaches the game, the way his attitude towards the game, the way he defends, just everything that's about him. Craig Halkett, I felt he's missed him big time last. When you have Craig Halkett and Peter Harron, I think it's a better partnership than a Sibbick and somebody else, just to give you a prime example. And I think you're right. Sibbick doesn't fit the bill. But Hearts are up against it just now, unfortunately.
I'm glad to see Michael's joined us there from Greece. Michael, I don't know how to say hello in Greek, but hello. How are you doing?
I think Michael's getting some Grease lighting on his summer nights. Woohoo! I could do more of them, but I won't. Maybe it's just hopeless devoted to the show. There you go, another one. I think, Reagan, as well, if you look at last night, the one thing, again, that was a little bit frustrating, and listen, I loved what Hearts did last night, just couldn't get the goal. But you look at that bench last night, there wasn't really a lot on the Hearts bench to change it, and that's where I think Robbie needs to get a few more signings in, because they really only had Ginnelly, and Ginnelly came on, and I know we were down to 10 men, but he didn't really offer a lot.
Yeah, he kind of flatters to deceive, is it they call it? That for me, I think he scores the odd goal like he did against Dundee United, but then he'll kind of go about 6 weeks without contributing too much. I think he's one of these guys that you kind of probably like to have around the squad, but I don't know if he's really doing much. That's not me being disrespectful to him. That's just me saying that if you're in the Hearts team that's creating a lot of chances at Tynecastle, you'd be expecting them to be contributing to the squad.
Let's look at the draw for the Conference League, because Hearts were drawn earlier on in Group A. We're going to be playing Istanbul Başakşehir. I can do it again. They're from Turkey. We've got Fiorentina.
Say that again, Graham.
Istanbul Başakşehir. I can do this all day. Istanbul Başakşehir. See, I'm getting used to it now. We're going to play Fiorentina from Italy, and we're going to play RFS from Latvia, who were very, very lucky to get past Linfield last night from Ireland, because they were extra time, and it was their own goal that took it to penalty kicks, and RFS won that game. So looking at that group, now I'm a bit gutted, because had we got in the Europa League, we'd have been playing Arsenal and PSV. We might have got hammered, but it would have been great. But looking at that group, Dave, I mean, I think you're looking at RFS and looking for Hearts to get 6 points out of that, and then hopefully get maybe something at home against Fiorentina and Istanbul, Başakşehir here. I'm going to do this all day.
Yeah, RPS first and foremost. They were lucky against Winfield last night, and a couple of my mates were actually speaking about that Winfield RPS game last night because they were watching the game after the Hearts game, and they were touching upon the fact that Winfield will have an easier chance to reach the Europa Conference League group stages. They thought they put in a very valiant effort last night, but just came up short, unfortunately. And that's the proximities of European football. When you think you've done enough, you actually haven't, because a lot of sides find resilience or find character on to get a result, especially sides with a certain level of experience. And RPS are a side that don't exactly win leagues. They're not a side that can challenge for leagues. The Latvia League is well beyond the standard of Scottish football. That's saying a lot when you speak about the level of Scottish football nowadays. So in terms of Hearts, I think anything less than 6 points and it'll be deemed unacceptable by a lot of Hearts fans. I mean, Robbie Nelson gets his critics, and I'll be dead honest with you. I think if he doesn't pick 6 points out of 6, I can see the Hearts fans turning on a little bit again, just because they'll have that European pressure this year. So there's that. Obviously play Istanbul, and that's a great opportunity as well, as I said earlier on, because they finished fourth in the Turkish League last year, and that's probably got loads of similarities with Scottish football just in terms of the Turkish League. I think it's a good opportunity for Hearts, considering how Galatasaray failed last season, how pitiful they were, the fact that they drew with St Johnstone. Obviously, we get Besiktas as well. So I think Istanbul's a good opportunity. I think if Hearts want to progress, I think it's down to that head-to-head games with Istanbul. I can see if you're on tier one in the group where he is. And what team is it that Al Bill plays for?
He is from, I think it's Istanbul, I think.
You'll be playing Al Bill.
We're going to be playing against Mesut Ozil as well, and Luka Jovic, who plays for Fiorentina, so that's a brilliant tie. But actually, before I get on to that, I just want to ask you two something as well, just quickly, when you mentioned Robbie Nielsen there, and the fact he could get stick for losing to RFS. I want to come to you first, Dave, on this, and I'll come to you in a minute, Regan. You can get your opinion on this. Last night, after the game, after we got knocked out, I saw on Twitter somebody actually messaged George Grant on Twitter and basically abused the guy and said, I hope you never wear a Heart shirt again. Now, that again is just ridiculous. The guy's made a mistake. Listen, I wasn't happy with him last night, but I would never ever dream of going on Twitter and slagging that guy off. It's just happening too much nowadays, Dave.
There wasn't any death threats or that, was there?
Not as far as I'm aware.
No, well, that's good. Well, that's a positive, I should say. Sorry, good's the wrong phrase to use there. Yeah, it's sickening. But I think that's a sign of where football's at just now. I don't know if we'll get on to it later on the show, but I'll get on to a specific incident in just a minute's time. But when you speak about George Grant getting stick, yeah, George Grant didn't cover himself in full glory. Yeah, George Grant ultimately let his club down, he let his team down. Did you think, I don't know if you agree here, Graham, did you think Robbie Nielsen kind of papered over the cracks with that last night? Because it seemed to me, based on the stuff he was saying to the broadcast media, it seemed to me as although he did. But, I mean, these things are happening now in football. I mean, players getting stick happens consistently now. I mean, Ali Walford, the battling, puts in that disgustingly shocking challenge on Lowry on Tuesday. He's getting death threats, right? Ali Wolf, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning for 1 minute what Ali Wolf did on Tuesday night, because it was a horrible challenge. And a lot of people that are old school football purists are sticking up for him. And don't get me wrong, I would do exactly the same, because I am an old school man myself. I do love an old fashioned tackle. But in the same token as well, there was no doubting that was a red card. And at the same token as well, I'm hastily conceiving that people are giving him death threats, predominantly Rangers fans. But yeah, I just find it pitiful to say the least that Ali Wolf's getting death threats. And yeah, I just find it a sickening place to be. And it's just saying where social media is, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, you're right. I think Robbie Nielsen did take over the cracks some type, because if he's watched that penalty back, there's no way he can think that's a penalty. But last night he did say he thought it was a penalty, which I don't agree with. But Reagan, just on the George Grant thing, I mean, as I keep saying, it's happening too often now. And again, last night as well, we saw an incident on the pitch where Craig Gordon is hit with something from the crowd as well, from Zurich crowd. It's not good enough, is it?
No, it's a disgrace. I mean, that's why for me, Graham, social media is a vicious circle, as I say. I mean, I love social media. I love interacting with people. I've met people from social media like you and David as well. There's some great people on social media, but I think I think nowadays it just goes far too far for me because if you look at George Grant, he's probably got a wife, a daughter, a son. He's got family. You know, well, just say for instance, Graham, that we wanted to get George Grant on this show, right? He probably wouldn't answer our message because he gets that many bad messages that he won't answer the very good messages from platforms like here. Because if you want to be honest with everybody here and everybody watching this, see the reason why people don't answer people on social media is because 99.9% of the stuff on social media, it's all bad stuff. And see that 1%, that 1% is the good people. I mean, you've got people on Twitter who've got fake names and fake um, photographs because they think they can make up fake profiles or profiles to annoy people, which really gets at me. Right, fair enough. If you've got a business or you're doing a podcast or you're doing a radio show, fair enough. But there's no need to make fake profiles up and start abusing people. It's just not a place for it.
No, I completely agree, and I echo absolutely everything you've said there. Let's get back to the positive stuff. We'll get on to the old Rangers and Celtic in a minute. I just want to quickly touch on the group stage. Reagan, do you think Hearts can get out of that group? It's the top two that go through. Do you think Hearts have got a chance?
I think you should write your name on that trophy, Graham. I mean, the Conference League. I mean, whereabouts is the final? Whereabouts is the final, Graham?
I haven't checked that far. I probably should have done, but I haven't.
Well, I know the Champions League finals in Turkey, so I'll be booking my flights to Turkey soon. But yeah, I mean, I just hope Michael's got all expenses paid for because me and you and David are going to have a busy time. We've got Hearts in the final, and we've got a Scottish representation in the European final again this year. Because for me, I mean, Graham, I think they've got a great chance.
It's in Tirana, capital of Albania this year, the Conference League final.
The capital of where?
Albania.
Albania. Oh, I've got good memories of Albania, actually. I remember Scotland beat Albania 5-1 when Fletcher scored to put us through to the Nations League final. Anyway, getting back to the point, I think they'll go through again. I think they'll go through the second place. I think they'll beat Başak Tir at home and take a point away. And I think Fiorentina will finish top of the group.
I've always liked you, Reagan. Thank you for that positivity. Dave, do you think Hearts will get through?
As I said, I think they will, but I think it comes down to the head-to-head games against Istanbul, because I think RPS, as long as Hearts are professional getting the job done, they'll beat them, no problem. Six points at 6. It's ultimately about the games against Istanbul, and they'll be hard games, but I think Fiorentina is a case of being compact, being tight, being organised, and see what we can get out of them. But then Istanbul at Tynecastle. If that's a 6th game in the group, Tynecastle will be red hot. If that's got a permutation where Hearts need a point, just an example, Tynecastle will be rocking. So here's hoping that situation comes to fruition.
Yeah, and I can't wait.
Hearts, glorious Hearts.
I can't wait till the fixtures come out tomorrow, and I can't believe I managed to get off with half an hour talking about Hearts. It's well said, the boss man Michael's not here. So let's get on to the Champions League draw, and the Champions League draw was made. We'll get on to Rangers shortly, but let's talk about the champion Celtic, who were drawn in Group A against Ajax. We'll get on to Group F. Group F. I got that wrong. I'm too excited about Hearts, you see. and Istanbul Başakşehir here. So they were drawn in Group F against Real Madrid, RB Leipzig, and Shakhtar Donetsk. And we have to go to the massive Celtic fan, Reagan. Reagan, you must be delighted with that draw. Real Madrid have come out of Parkhead.
I think it's a great draw. And I just said to you at 4:45 when I logged on to the studio, I thought that Real Madrid are not as good as they were last year. Obviously, they've lost their best midfielder to Manchester United for money, 400 grand a week. He's went for. Then you've got Jovic has moved to Fiorentina, as you know, Graham. And they've got a few more players that are moving out as well. Like, I guess Isco as well is moving out. They've got a few moving out, so I don't think they'll be as strong this year. And I think Celtic should be targeting the Shakhtar Donetsk game, because I want to get onto this point, and I don't know if you've seen this, but Shakhtar Donetsk are usually populated by players from Brazil and Argentina, but such as Fernandinho, Willian, and past years. But because of the war situation, I think 23 out of their squad are all from Ukraine. So I don't think the standard of their team will be top notch. No disrespect to them, but I think if Celtic go out there, and I think they still need a striker, they still need a centre half, because they're going to get rid of Alvin Ayeti, they're going to get rid of Mikey Johnson, and they're going to get rid of, obviously, Christopher Julian, and a few more. So I'm thinking you're definitely going to need 2 more in, but I think with this squad, I think you could be looking at second place.
Dave, when that draw was made and Celtic's name came out of the hat, if you're Ange Postecoglou, are you buzzing with that? The fact you're going to be playing Real Madrid?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a different tie for Celtic. I mean, Celtic have been used to playing sides such as AC Milan, and they played Man United on a couple of occasions, and they played a couple of other different sides and all that as well. So I think it's a different tie for Celtic. It's a chance to go to the Bernabeu, which is a fantastic ground in itself, and obviously a little bit of opportunity for Celtic fans to go enjoy some sunshine as well. So about sunshine in Madrid, hola birria in Madrid. So it'll be a good opportunity for that, and it'll be a good opportunity for Celtic fans to get some Spanish language under their sleeves. But yeah, I think it's a decent enough group for Celtic. They've played Leipzig before, they've played Donetsk before, and Donetsk, they don't have a good track record against Donetsk. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to say the least, that one. But yeah, I think it's a good tie playing Real Madrid, and it's going to be a bit different from going to Thailand Sunday, that's for sure.
You can tell that I'm hosting tonight because this show goes on a tangent. But Reagan, you've just touched on Real Madrid a minute ago. Are you surprised that Real Madrid have let Casemiro go, and especially to Man United?
Yeah, I mean, Man United are a hellhole at the moment. I mean, I don't know why anyone would join that club at the moment. They're an absolute mess. I know they beat Liverpool at Monday game, which you'll probably not like. But I mean, I think they're an absolute disgrace the way that they've been run, from the Glazers down, from everybody involved. I think it's been a disgrace. But if you look at it from their point of view, they've absolutely been lucky with Casemiro, because you look at the players they've tried to bring in, Rabiot and Nautovic, they've got no plan. So why would he leave the European champions to join absolute dross at Man United, such as his pal Fred? You know, you're better with right side Fred in the middle of the park. You know, I honestly don't see this guy playing football. And then you've got Martial up front. I mean, they called him the new version of Thierry Henry 10 years ago. Well, I've still not seen him. And then you've got Scotland's Iniesta, Scott McTominay, absolutely rank rotten, as much as people like to give him praise, but I think he's absolutely rank rotten. But if you look at going back to Real Madrid, I think they're weaker. I think one positive for Real Madrid though is they're going to be up for this, because they're going to know Celtic are going to give them a great atmosphere, and it's going to be intense. But one thing I want to get your thoughts on, Graham, do you think it's now time that Celtic fans and Scottish football fans stop all of this? Oh, Celtic is a great place to play. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. I get all that, Graham, right? But see when football, right? It's okay saying all this stuff, but you need to realise as well, right? All of these players that are saying this at Celtic Park, 'cause every player's came there and won, you know. So it's okay them saying, "Oh, it's a great atmosphere," but you want them to go there and fear Celtic, not go there and go, "Right, well, it's a great atmosphere," but that's all it is. I mean, I know you wouldn't want me to mention this, Graham, but look at Ibrox, right? Ibrox has become a fortress. You know, I'm starting to think last night. I'm sitting there going, I think Rangers could beat Liverpool at home. I really
No,
do.
no, it won't happen. It won't happen.
I really do, Graham, because the Rangers have beaten some really good teams in Europe. I mean, I even think they could beat Ajax at home. Look at Ajax; they've got Bassey, who we all know is a good player. They've got the guy man you're after. Is it Serge Anthony, the striker?
Aye. Yeah, yeah.
I think from a Rangers point of view, I think they've bought a real fortress. I think that's what Celtic will try and do as well. Because if you can pick up points at home and you can do well, then I think it's a no brainer that you're in the last 16. And I think Ange Postecoglou is the type of manager, Graham and Dave, that he won't accept what Neil Lennon accepted. Just say, well, we're here to have fun and do whatever. Ange Postecoglou will want to go there and put a stamp on it.
Dave, we all know that Celtic in Europe last season were not great. Now, Postecoglou, we all know, has done a fantastic job with that Celtic team. He signed a lot of very good players. Do you think Celtic have got the quality to listen? Real Madrid are a very good side, but I think Celtic have got the quality to really get at Real Madrid in those games.
I mean, you've seen the type of games that Real Madrid have been expected to go win games comfortably against, like Croatian sides and Slovenian sides and Slovakian sides and Eastern European sides. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, Sheriff Tiraspol went to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid. So it shows that
Shot the sheriff. Remember that song? Shot the sheriff.
Aye. No, I think the likes of Sheriff Tiraspol is a good benchmark for the likes of Celtic to look at and go, we can get belief here. We can go to the Bernabeu, we can go and take them to our own territory at Celtic Park and give them a right good game. It's a terrific opportunity for Ange Postecoglou's side. When you look at the group, Real Madrid, decent enough outfit as we well truly know. The next going to be a hard one. Leipzig haven't started that great. If I was Celtic and with an Ange Postecoglou mentality, I'd be looking at last 16 football here.
I suppose the positive from Celtic's point of view is that even though Leipzig have showed their quality last year and they got to the semi-final of a European competition, that is the perfect opportunity because you don't want to go in a group with two absolute giants. And I think the important thing for Celtic fans watching, or Celtic fans listening as well, is that they've got a chance in it. That's all you can ask for. See, the exact same way Robbie Nielsen said, that they've got a chance. So that's all you can ask.
Reagan, I think if you look at RB Leipzig, they've obviously re-signed Timo Werner, who didn't have a great time at Chelsea.
Oh,
I mean, could he be a real threat to Celtic in those games against RB Leipzig?
I know this might come back and haunt me, Graham, but I think I'd be better at scoring. You know what I mean? The guy's got a better record at oh my god! You know, his work rate's terrific. It's terrific. I watch the Premier League every week. His work rate's terrific, but he just couldn't finish his dinner. You know, it's just one of the players where his work rate's terrific under Tommy Tuchel, but he just couldn't finish his dinner.
Dave, I think you mentioned it earlier. Obviously, Shakhtar Donetsk are the last team in the group, and as much as folk will think that they're going to be cannon fodder, I think Celtic have got to be very, very wary of that. And Dave's on mute.
Dave, you're on mute, son.
That's the first time tonight. Yeah, no, it's always going to be a dangerous one and something that they need to be vigilant about. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. And I think if Celtic are to progress, a Pelican Hearts situation, I think it's going to come down to head-to-heads because Leipzig more. I think they've got to beat Donetsk. There's no getting away from that. Donetsk are going to provide their own threat the Champions League. I think Donetsk beat Real Madrid in the Champions League tie just over a decade ago, if I remember rightly. That was when I forgot who was playing for Shakhtar that night in question, but I don't think who was manager. Was it? I'll need to look it up for you, but I think Mourinho Ancelotti was manager for Real Madrid and Donetsk went to Bernabeu and won. I'll need to double check that, but I think that happened. So it shows that Celtic can achieve something, but they have to be wary of what's in front of them as well.
Yep.
Regan, even as a Hearts fan, I am. My mouth is watering at that Celtic Real Madrid game. It's a tie that everybody will want to look forward to, and I think for me. Do you think that Celtic, I know they've just signed somebody else in this last couple of days, but do you think next week, before the transfer window shuts, that Celtic will look to maybe sign another couple of players?
Celtic, it's not just, will Celtic sign? Celtic need to, Graham, and I'll give you reasons why, is they're going to let a Jetty go, Graham, and especially just for numbers, they've let John Joe Kenny, who's their striker, go, and Kyogo's record being injured last year wasn't great. And I don't know what you think, Graham, but see the way that Kyogo runs when he's got the ball, it always gives me a fright that he might get injured. So I think you still need a striker because, especially when, I don't know if you've seen the schedule as well, Graham. The schedule from now to November is absolutely hectic. You've got Scottish Cup, League Cup, Champions League, possibly Europa League. I don't think you can go through all that length of time and try and not have just Giakoumakis and Kyogo because, like, especially the way that we heard Ange talking to Sky and to Go Radio and all these places last year saying that the intensity of football is so good. So if you're going to play that intensive football and play 3 games a week, it's very hard to deal with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think one thing I want to ask you about as well is defensively. Celtic look, I mean, Carter Vickers and Morris Jensen at the moment look like they've got a very good partnership.
Yeah.
You must be very satisfied with what you're doing defensively. And again, I'm going to touch on him, and I'm going to have to say this. I think Greg Taylor's been outstanding for Celtic so far. Greg
Taylor was good. He's been very good, especially against Derek McGuinness' side at Rugby Park 2 weeks ago. He was very good. Put a great through ball for the first goal, which I was very impressed with. But I'm a bit surprised about Bernabei, Graham, because I want to ask you about him, because he was brought on as a £4 million signing, and I've still not seen him. People can say Greg Taylor's been great and he's been this, but if you look at Moy, who's brought in, right? Moy's not played every game, but Moy has been on for 60-minute mark. We've not seen any of Bernabei. Do you think there's maybe a wee problem with Bernabei? Because for me, I know he was allegedly getting done with the drink driving stuff, but do you think that's kind of playing in the background? Because for me, I think he'd be looking to get more minutes.
Honestly, I just think it's because Greg Taylor's been so good and it's very hard to drop him. I think, Greg Taylor's been outstanding, and I think Bernabei will get his chance. He might even get a chance against United on Sunday. But I just think the form that Greg Taylor's been in, it's been very hard for Postecoglou to say, right, you're coming out and he's going in. It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's very difficult because if you look at it, Greg Taylor's been fantastic, but I'm just thinking from Celtic's point of view because they spent £4 million on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I just think the form that Greg Taylor's been in, probably the best of his career, it's very hard to drop him. And I think for me, I mean, looking at that Celtic group, I think genuinely, Celtic could genuinely get second place. I think Real Madrid will win the group. But Dave, do you think, as with Hearts, do you think Celtic can get out of that group?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I touched upon earlier on, I think it's not a group of death situation, but I think a lot depends on how. I think the first 2 games will give us a good indication and a good barometer to how everybody's going to get on. You've got a Real Madrid side that can always struggle against a Leipzig. They can always struggle against a Celtic, always struggle against a Donetsk. I think depending on when the games took place and how, I think it'll give us a good indication that way. Leipzig and Donetsk, there's a lot of similarities between both the sides. They're nothing excellent. They're good sides, but they're nothing short of excellent. They're not spectacular. Maybe they're Celtic for that precise matter. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And I've every belief that Celtic can get out of that group and get to the last 16 of the Champions League, which would be an astonishing achievement.
Reagan, I'm going to come to you. I think I know your answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. Do you think Celtic will get this group?
I think they'll get out of the group in some fashion. Either they'll go through the last 16 or they'll go through to Europa. Because I think for me, Shakhtar Donetsk will finish bottom of the group.
Yeah, I agree. And do you know what? I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say that Celtic will get out of the group because I think it would be great to have another Scottish team. If Hearts can get through the Conference League, Celtic can get through this. That would be great for Scottish football. Let's go on to Rangers, who are in Group A. We'll get to that in a second. But Reagan, what did you make of Rangers against PSV on Tuesday night?
I thought they were steady. I thought they were they got the job done. I managed to watch the game with family. I've got a lot of Rangers fans who are family. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because at about the 40-minute mark, Rangers started to grow in it. And I'm saying, if they can get to half time here instead of on, then they could do something here. I thought it was just important that they got through to half time. And as soon as they got to half time, right, I don't know if you watched the full game, but De Jong got injured. And I don't know what it was, but that just seemed to change the full game. Seemed to change the full flow of PSV. I don't know if it knocked them out their steam or it knocked their rhythm or it knocked their patience. But it definitely had an impact on the game because De Jong had a great chance the first half about the 20-minute mark when Jupo put the ball in, and the only thing that De Jong has to do is put his laces through and he scored. So I think De Jong's physical presence really let PSV down in that second half. But fair play to Rangers. I mean, they had a great chance just before they scored with Tom Lawrence. Don't know if you've seen it, Graham, but Graham Lawrence probably hit the ball too sweet. It basically hit the post and then it kind of bounced out. But I thought overall, the Rangers thoroughly deserved a win because they're in that pot for the group stages, and all you can say is Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's record in Europe is unbelievable. I think I've seen a stat on Twitter the other day, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has played 6 European ties as Rangers manager. He's won all 6. He's played, I think it's Dortmund, RB Leipzig, a few others. Every single tie that Rangers have played, he's done. And I want to ask Dave this, but I think Gio, I think his in-game management is absolutely superb, and I think it's totally different to Steven Gerrard. I think he just knows how to get the job done.
No, I agree. I mean, he got a lot of critics to start with, but I think that a lot of critics was because he was trying to get his own mould in the team more than anything else. I think the Hibs defeat didn't help his purpose one bit, but a lot of Rangers fans put the blame on that primarily because he wasn't in the job. Whereas I thought it was a little bit unjustified from Rangers supporters in all fairness. So, as time's grown on, he's obviously evolved into a really good manager at Ibrox side and helped Rangers get some big results. And it's hard to get that balance because playing twice a week is hard on teams physically and mentally, irrespective if it's Rangers or Auckland Gap balance. I mean, if it's Rangers, obviously, you look at it and I remember a situation where they beat Dortmund on the Thursday over in Dortmund, and then went to Tardis on Sunday against a resolute Tam Courts Dundee United and struggled. And that was because Dundee United understood and knew the proximities and the pressures that are mounted with how Rangers performed in Germany, and knew they'd have to set up a lot differently. Because I was at the press conference on the Friday, and Tam Courts says, "Look, we're going to do things differently," and it paid off. But then I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has learned over time to adapt both. He's learned how to get the balance right, and that's exactly what he's done. I mean, this season, for example, he had a disappointing outcome in Switzerland against USG, but then had a very, very good performance on the Saturday, beat St Johnstone 4-0, when there was a lot of pressure ultimately in that USG game. And then they obviously had a fantastic performance to throw over USG again. And then they went to Easter Road, which was a disappointing 2-each draw. But when you were saying disappointed, I think that's actually a wrong phrase to use in all honesty, because when you look at that Hibs game, it was a Josh Campbell 90th minute equaliser when Rangers were down to 9 men. And obviously, I'll obviously be off in a couple of minutes, but you guys will speak about John Lindstrom and the fact that he's had his red card rescinded. But yeah, that was nearly a vital 3 points for Rangers. It wasn't in the end, but when you look at it, he's getting the balance right now. He's winning big games, and that's what's pleasing Rangers fans the most.
And don't
Dave,
forget, sorry, I was just going to say, Graham, don't forget, I did mention last Friday that Celtic lost 3 out of the first 6, and I did say that Tuesday's game was more important than Saturday's game, and I did say if you asked Gio, take a draw tomorrow and then go into Tuesday and win that, he would take that all day long. So
yeah, Dave is away now. He's left us, so it's just me and Reagan now. But I just wanted to ask your thoughts on Reagan or something, actually. Before that game on Tuesday night, there was the news a few days before that Alfredo Morelos was left out the squad because of his fitness and attitude.
yeah.
Now, obviously, now it's the right decision because Rangers went through. Were you surprised by that?
I was very surprised. You know, people can say Rangers got through, but Alfredo Morelos is a fantastic striker. He is. I don't understand people that say he isn't. Maybe it's not Rangers fans, but this guy scored constantly. This guy was the second European competition goal scorer, top goal scorer, and he played really well last year. And Rangers run to Seville, and I think even on Tuesday night, Graham, I thought they missed him as well, because if you look at Cholak, Cholak's a different kind of threat. Every time that Rangers loved the ball up to him, I don't think he was holding it up the same that Alfredo would have, because for me, Alfredo Morelos, it's not just the hold up play, it's the backing of the defenders, it's the shoving them out the way and buying Rangers some time. So I think, do you know what I think it is on Tuesday? I think it's a stroke of genius from Gio. I think it's a stroke of genius to go, right, Alfredo, I'm going to put this out in the media, but internally, I know you're going to be my striker. Because for me, that's all it was. People were overreacting. That's all it was. It was the fact that he's basically sending a message to the squad and saying, if anybody else does this, this is what happens. He's sending a message. He's sending a message. Because in the press conference when he spoke to all the other radio stations and TV stations, afterwards he said, Alfredo Morelos is part of my squad and he's chomping at the bit for Champions League. So, I think that was a psychological battle that Gio won. And I think Rangers fans will agree. I think that Alfredo Morelos will be a very, very key part to this Champions League run for Rangers.
Question for you, Reagan. I'll answer this as well in a second. Hashbury Stumble says, do you think Rangers will let Morelos go?
No, I don't. Like I said there, I think Tuesday was a masterstroke by Gio to give him a lesson. But I think if you look at the comments after the game, Gio says that Alfredo Morelos is part of his plans and he's chomping at the bit. So that is to send a message. And he basically said, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, who wouldn't want to be part of the Champions League? And I think Alfredo's no different. So I think, especially the fact that Rangers have got into Champions League, Alfredo Morelos is not going to want to throw that away. See when Rangers were in the 90th minute on Tuesday and the 1-0 up, I bet you Alfredo Morelos was on that treadmill losing some weight and saying, right, I need to get myself fit here for the 5th of September when we play against all the big teams. Because I think they're going to cause teams trouble. I really do.
Or he was like, Greg's looking for a steak bake. You never know. But no, I agree. I don't think they'll let him go either. I think he will be there. I don't think they would let him go now. I think he's still an important player for Rangers. But at the moment, I mean, to be honest, Reagan, you can't really take anything away from Antonio Kolak, who is scoring goals.
No, I mean I think he's probably been the signing of the summer so far. If you look at his goal record, I think he's at 5-5. You just can't grumble with that if you're a striker.
Let's look at the draw. They're in Group A. They've got Ajax, Liverpool, my English team, and Napoli. I mean, Reagan, that is a heck of a draw for Rangers.
That is a heck of a draw and a heck of a cities as well, because Naples just sounds so romantic. So, if any, if you want to take your wife to Naples, it sounds like a nice wee time to take her there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good group for Rangers fans. I mean, they're going to go to Liverpool, a Battle of Britain tie. Then you've got Amsterdam Arena. You know, you can enjoy some Dutch sightseeing and enjoy the football, and then you can enjoy a wee bit of Naples, a bit of romanticising in Naples. So I think it's going to be a brilliant, because a lot of people don't know this, but Napoli are a big team in it, like Diego Maradona. They won a lot of trophies back in the day as well.
I know you were laughing at this earlier. And listen, Liverpool have not started the season well. Do you really think that Rangers could potentially beat Liverpool? Not just one game, but both those games.
I really do. Honestly, I've watched Rangers at Ibrox, and I've seen them playing, and I think they could beat Liverpool, because let's be honest, right? Liverpool had Gomez at the back?
Yeah.
Joe Gomez at the back. Now you're telling me that Alfredo Morelos, he couldn't get past Joe Gomez? Of course he could. But I think when Rangers play Anfield, I think it'll be very tough. But I think when you play Ibrox, it'll be totally different. I mean, Rangers have showed against a class team in Dortmund that they can do well. So I think Rangers have now got European pedigree, as you would say, Graham, and that they can go up against these teams and go, right here, Ibrox is a good place to play, but it's not going to be an easy place to play.
And of course, I mean, I'll touch on Ajax shortly, but I mean, Liverpool haven't started well. You know, we've lost.
No, they've been terrible.
We've lost a lot of players through injury. We let Sadio Mane go. I think Luis Diaz is a great player, but for me, at the moment, so far, I know it's only very early in the season, but for me, it's probably the poorest that I've seen Virgil van Dijk so far. I think it's been really poor so far.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, I'm addicted to English football. I don't know what he was doing on Monday night. I mean, what is he doing? He's like standing there doing a wee dance. You know,
it was terrible defending. To be honest, that midfield for me, James Milner, Jordan Henderson, Harvey Elliott. I'm a big fan of Elliott, but for me, James Milner, for me, he's finished at this level for me.
He's past it. I mean, I think you'd rather have the Celtic midfield than you had that Liverpool midfield on Monday night. I mean,
I don't think I could go that far.
I think you would. I mean, you look at Jordan Henderson. I think Jordan Henderson's a class player, and then the wee guy Elliott is his first season at the club. Well, not his first season, but his first season starting as a proper first team player, because he's not really been relied upon for Klopp. But Klopp saying during pre-season he's played him quite a bit and he's done well. So fair play to him for doing that. But no,
the one question I would ask: do you think that Borna Barisic could deal with Mohamed Salah?
Possibly. I think it's quite interesting, right? Because I want to ask you this. I think Liverpool, I don't know if it's internal, but also externally from me watching it, right? I think they've lost that spark from when Maris went. I mean, to me they don't look as potent, but it's like Spurs with Harry Kane, right? Now you've got Son and you've got Decky. Who I call him Decky, right? You've got they three, right? You've got they three, and those three make each other tick. For me, Salah and Mane make each other tick. I don't know if that Nunez is going to be the man because I seen him on the 2 weeks ago on Monday and he headbutted the guy and he was off. Obviously, Klopp's punished him and he's got a 3 or 4 game ban. But I think that Liverpool are definitely weaker. I know they're talking today on Sky and BT and other sources that they're looking to bring in one more midfielder. But for me, I think they've got weaker. So from Rangers' point of view, I think they'll be fancying it. And we'll obviously move on to Ajax now, Graham.
Rangers fans, Liverpool, that gives me the fear. We'll talk about Ajax, and they will have a familiar face in their team as Calvin Bassey will be going back to Ibrox. That's a massive game for Calvin Bassey going back to Ibrox.
Yeah, I mean it's a great move for both of them because Rangers got 22 million. Bassey goes there, and for him to go back to Ibrox, it's just a dream come true for him. But I think Rangers are fancy it because I think I read yesterday that Ajax have lost 8 players during this window. Plus, they've also brought in Stephen Bergwijn from Spurs, and they're looking at offloading Anthony to Manchester United. So I think if they lose Anthony to Manchester United, then Rangers will be fancying it. Rangers know that they can go there and they can do a job in them.
They've also got Tungai and Ndombele, who was at Tottenham as well. So again, it's going to be a difficult tie. But again, is that maybe a game that Rangers be looking to, especially at Ibrox, be looking to get something against Ajax as well?
Sorry, you're talking about Napoli. And Ndombele's way to Napoli, Graham.
Oh, Napoli, wrong one.
Aye. No, I think Rangers are fancy. I don't know if you agree, Graham, but I think Rangers have beaten better teams than Ajax.
I think if you look at what Rangers have done over European stage last season and again beating PSV Eindhoven, I think you were right about Ibrox becoming a fortress. I think for any team right now, it's a very difficult place to go and get something.
It is. I mean, it's even as when I was at the Spurs game against Rangers a few weeks ago, Rangers go 1-0 up, playing really well, and I just think they've got a really good composure about them, Ibrox, and it's going to be really hard for anybody to pick up points there.
So, do you think, again, with Celtic and Hearts, do you think this is a group that Rangers can look at and think, we can get out of this?
I'm going to stick my neck on the line. I'm going to say that Rangers, Celtic, and Hearts all qualify. There you go.
I love Ashbury Stumble here. My mum used to clean the sink with Ajax. Sometimes she used them. I like that comment. That's quite funny. Do you know what? I'm going to be positive again. I'm going to say that all 3 Scottish teams will get through the group. I pray that Hearts do. I think it's a great draw for Rangers. And if I'm talking about mouth-watering ties for Hearts against Fiorentina, I'm talking about mouth-watering ties for Celtic against Real Madrid. I cannot wait for that Liverpool-Rangers game and Rangers-Liverpool. I can't wait.
Oh, it's box office. It's absolutely box office. I'm going to be glued to my telly. You know, it's one of the games as a football fan, you're just going to absolutely love it. I mean, for Liverpool to be going to Ibrox, it's going to be great. And obviously, Rangers have got that Liverpool connection with Ben Davis. Is John Lundstrom a Liverpool fan, maybe? Or is he Everton?
I think he might be Everton, I think.
Right. Well, I know Conor Golson's a Liverpool fan.
Darwin Núñez against Conor Golson. Bring it on. I can't wait. So let's now look at the fixtures this weekend in the Premier League. We've actually managed to get an hour. Honestly, this has been a very, very busy show so far. I'm not even touching the fixture. So let's talk about the first game tomorrow is Aberdeen against Livingston. Aberdeen sitting 5th, Livingston sitting 7th. Aberdeen got a win last week against St Johnstone with that great goal from Leighton Clarkson. So let's touch on Aberdeen firstly. Reagan, it's very early in the season, I know, but what have you made of Aberdeen so far?
I think I actually managed to watch this game yesterday. Last week, sorry. um, sorry, it's been a long day. I've, I managed to watch this game last week. I watched the full game actually, but I thought Aberdeen played well throughout. I thought they should have scored more than one goal. Did you manage to see it, Graham?
I saw it, yeah. I
I
saw it.
thought they should have scored more than one goal. I thought they controlled the game actually, and I think Jim Goodwin's kind of brought in some really good players, and he's showing that how good his recruitment's been, and how important it is for Dave Cormack and for Aberdeen to have a very successful transfer window, because that's certainly translating onto the park, and I think you'll be looking at Aberdeen this weekend to go there and get all 3 points.
I said to Dave last week, and I mentioned this before, I honestly think Leighton Clarkson's an excellent signing. And that was a magnificent goal last week against St Johnstone. That free kick was an absolute peach.
Yeah, I mean, I put on Twitter about 4:30 and said, wait until you see this Aberdeen goal. Because what a goal. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I think he's from Liverpool, is he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah, I think they could be doing with him right now. But, yeah, I mean, what age is he, Graham? What age is the guy?
He's 22, I think he is.
Oh, well, I think he's still got a lot of time ahead of him. So, but it's a shrewd bit of business again from Aberdeen, because you need to say Jim Goodwin's recruitment has been very good so far.
They obviously lost the week before against Motherwell, which is a surprise. Do you think, and again, I spoke to David about this as well, do you think Aberdeen should be pushing Celtic, Rangers and Hearts a lot more this season?
I think they will be. I think just with the nature of Aberdeen having one game a week and Celtic, Rangers and Hearts playing every single week, because I've predicted the Hearts will go on and win the Conference League. So they'll be playing up to the final. But no, I think that it's going to be a difficult one for Jim, because you want to get Aberdeen into third and fourth place to try and get back in the European spots, because we don't want to have repeats of Dundee United and obviously Motherwell again, because no disrespect to those two teams, but you want to see Aberdeen back up there, because I remember a few years ago when Aberdeen played Rijeka and they beat them 2-0 at home and then 1-0 away. They were a great couple of times, and then you kind of got used to Derek McInnes' side always qualifying for Europe. So I think Jim, from a personal perspective, I want to grace Aberdeen in that European stage again.
They've signed a lot of players, and obviously the transfer window shuts next week. They might sign another couple. Have you been impressed with the work that Goodwin's done so far?
Yeah, I think he's spent the money really well. And I think he's obviously got some really good young players in there as well. The striking options he's got is really good as well. And obviously his captain, Ross McCrory, I like him. I'm a bit surprised that he's not playing Joe Lewis. Obviously, Jim Goodwin's been in the job 6 months, and he's thought, right, I'll bring in my number one goalkeeper. I'll stamp my foray. I just think Joe Lewis is a very capable goalkeeper. I don't know what you think, Graham.
Yeah, he is. I was surprised that they signed Kelly Roos, but to be fair, he's not done a lot wrong so far, and I think Joe Lewis is a good goalkeeper. But clearly, Goodwin wants to kind of stamp his own style, and I think having Kelly Roos is a decent keeper. But I agree. I think Joe Lewis will probably get into most other teams in the Premier League.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that a team in Scotland will try and go for Joe Lewis before the deadline? Because for me, Joe Lewis is too good a goalkeeper to be sitting on the bench.
Do you know what? I wish Dave was here, but I actually think he would be a really good fit for Dundee United, because at the moment they are really struggling for a decent goalkeeper, and I think Lewis would be ideal for a team like United.
Yeah, and Dundee's not too far from Aberdeen, so I think it works well. I think you've just touted them for a move to Dundee United. I think we should put that on the Indie Live page. Graham Duffy to out Joe Lewis for a move to Dundee United.
How much stick will I get for that? But let's touch on Livingston. They are sitting 7 so far after 4 games. It's been a decent start for them. Last week they lost to Motherwell with a ridiculous penalty decision, but I think David Martindale's got to be quite pleased with them so far this season.
Yep. For me, David Martindale has done a great job so far. I mean, to go and beat Dundee United and to take Rangers all the way in their opening game of the season, I don't think you can ask too much more of the players, especially when they lost their talisman last year and Mr. Forrest that's moved to Robbie Nielsen's side. So I think it can only be pleased, and I think Livingston's really a hard place to go, and it's credit to David Martindale and Marvin Bartley as well, because they've built a foundation there that teams will go there and think, right, we need to play well to get a result there.
I don't know where this link has come from, but I was on Twitter yesterday, as I tend to do when I get bored, and I saw a few Hearts fans talking about Joel Nouble coming to Hearts. Now, I think Nouble's been a great player for Livingston.
What a player, honestly.
I mean, how big a loss would Nouble be to that Livingston team?
Yeah, I mean, I did say on the opening show of the season, I'm going to praise myself again. Sorry, Graham, but I did say that Nouble is the one to watch this year, because for me, he's just got something about him. I did say that. See the games at Arbroath, that they were televised on the Scotland channel. He was brilliant. He just looked like he was made for the Scottish game, and I think you'd be daft if somebody didn't take a punt on him, like at Aberdeen, a Dundee United, or a Hibernian, or even Robbie Nielsen's side, because if you want to push for that top 6 or push in the conference to win the Conference League, then Joe Nouble would be a great asset for Robbie Nielsen's side.
I asked Dave this last week. Are you surprised that he's been able to make the step up from Arbroath to come into the Premiership and really taken to it like a duck to water?
I don't know how to say this, Graham, but I think that see last year when you're watching it, you know how you kind of watch players at football level and you go, this guy's probably too good for this level? That's the way I did with Joe Nouble. I kind of thought, right, this guy is too good for the level, so he'll probably step up. And I think it was the natural progression for him to move to Livingston back on a permanent, because he showed his class and he showed his quality. And I'm so glad now for Marvin Bartley, he's proven himself to be a very good player.
Freedom Tracy comes in to say, hi guys, hello Freedom Tracy, that's a great name. How much do you reckon that Joel Nouble would go for, realistically?
Oh, 600 grand? I don't know.
So it's a lot of money. In terms of Livingston tomorrow against Aberdeen, that's a difficult game. Do you think Livingston could take anything from Pittodrie?
I think they could, but I don't think they will, because I think Aberdeen's front forces such as that Milovsky and obviously Johnny Hayes and Ross McCrory as well. He's been playing well, and like we spoke about the young man from Liverpool as well. So I think if you're a betting man, I said that last week. If you're a betting man, you would have put your money on them to do the job, but they obviously let us down against Motherwell.
100%. What's your prediction for the game tomorrow?
My prediction is Aberdeen 2, Livingston 1.
Ooh, I'm going to go Aberdeen 3, Livingston 0. I think Aberdeen will just have too much. Hashbury Stumble says, gotta go, but I may say my sympathy goes out to track cyclist Katie Archibald, who lost her partner this week. I completely agree. Rob Wardell, a cyclist, died, I think, in his sleep. It's a really sad loss. So my heart goes out to the family. Really, really devastating for Katie and the family. So I completely 100% agree with that. Let's move on to the next game tomorrow. It's Kilmarnock against Motherwell. I've got to be honest, Reagan. I am already only 4 games in. I would be very worried for Kilmarnock this season.
Yeah, but that's the kind of game where I know we love to talk up the Scottish game, and it's great, but I think this is going to be a lot of long balls, a lot of fiercely contested tackles, a lot of argy-bargy, as you would say, Graham. Don't think it's going to be pretty on the eye. I think it's going to be long ball, kind of feisty, kind of Stevie Hamill against Derek McInnes. You know, it's not going to be pretty on the eye. You're probably better closing the curtains, but I probably will go for a 1-0 to Kilmarnock because it's probably going to be scrappy, and I just think see Lafferty up front. I think he'll probably score to put them, because if you look at them right over the past few weeks, they've had some. Don't forget, Graham, I did predict that Ross County would beat them 1-0 last week. You know.
Hashberry Stumble says, thanks, folks. Catch you on the time course. Thank you for joining us, Hashberry. Honestly, I do love that Twitter, that handle. It's a great name. I actually spoke about this with, again, Dave last week. I've not been overly impressed with Kyle Lafferty so far this season.
No, I've not been impressed with him, but I think he's that bit of quality in a game against Kilmarnock Motherwell that you would say that they would open the hatches for Derek McInnes to put his side a couple of goals up. Because if you look at Motherwell, although they've started well against Stevie Hamill, I think it kind of papers over the cracks. The fact that they are not looking good, they're not looking as potent under him. And for me, Stevie Hamill's going to come in. He's got, 9 points from 4 games?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Right, that is a very good record for Motherwell manager. Right? But I think if you look at it from a balance point of view, which I'm going to do, I think if you look at that game last week against David Martindale's side, they were very, very fortunate to win that game through a dodgy penalty that Nick Walsh.
Oh, 100%. It's never a penalty. Never a penalty.
I don't know how he managed to see that there, because he was the only guy at third part that managed to see it. I was watching it on my telly and I'm going, what is he doing?
Do you know what? What I will say is, I don't blame Nick Walsh for that. It's the guy on the stand side linesman that gave that. Now, I don't know, again, how he could see that, because it was never a penalty moving.
But Nick Walsh should be strong enough and efficient enough as the man in the middle to go, look, I can see this and I'm not going to give it. I was going to ask you as well, Graham, do you think the fact that the crowd plays a part, do you think that plays into it?
The crowd playing a part at Fir Park? I don't think so. I'm not being funny. I just don't see it.
Oh, we did get
that'll be the Motherwell fans that we had. Have just been lost. But I honestly don't think Nick Walsh saw that. And if he did, it's a ridiculous call. But it's the linesman it's the assistant that gave that, and it's never a penalty.
Yeah, it's a strange one for me. But fair play, Stevie Hamill. He started well, and I don't mean to be a better of bad news for Motherwell. I hope they go on and do well this season, but I just don't see where their strength and depth and their attacking areas is coming in. Obviously, there's been talk about Snodgrass as well, Graham. What do you make of that? There's been talk. I've not heard anything else of it, but that's been to the talk of the town, as you would say.
I think we obviously know he's got plenty of experience, but again, is he maybe finished at this level? I don't know. I think he would add a little bit to Motherwell, but I'm just not sure. But I think in terms of Kilmarnock, that again is an issue for me. I know it's only 4 games in, and I know they've played Celtic and Rangers, but they've only scored 1 goal, and for me, they don't look good enough going forward for me.
No, I think if you're a fan going on to this game, you're kind of just hoping that something falls for you. You know that old saying, Graham, that hopefully something falls for us. I think that was what happened to Ross County last week, because I watched that game and I watched it for a long while because it was nothing each, and I'm sitting saying, right, I've watched the Aberdeen game for a while, Aberdeen in control, so I can switch the channel. I put on Red TV and I was sitting watching the game and I'm going, Ross County, I'll put that on for a bit. But I thought that in terms of Ross County, I thought they were far and away the worst team. And Derek McInnes is bang on, Graham, when he speaks about that red card for both Bowen and for Callaghan in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, we will get on to that. But I just want to touch quickly on Kilmarnock as well. I mean, they're at home tomorrow. This has surely got to be a game that Derek McInnes has got to be looking to get 3 points from.
Yeah, I mean, this is one on the bucket list where Derek McInnes will be saying, right, that should be an easy tick off there. Because for me, these are the games that if Kilmarnock are a serious football club that want to have their top flight status safe, these are the games they need to pick up points, because
I don't want to get my high horse here, and I know Michael won't like me doing this again, but he's not here. So, but again, I watched that, the Kilmarnock Celtic game last week, whenever it was, and honestly, or the week before even, when you're a Scottish football fan or any football fan, when you're watching that game on Sky and you're looking at that plastic pitch, it just doesn't put Scotland in a good light.
It's awful, absolutely. Graham, I don't know if you don't remember the rule back about 2011 when Falkirk said that they weren't allowed in the top flight because the stadium wasn't up to standard, and other clubs as well. I can't off the top of my head, but there should be a law in place that says for top flight football in Scottish Premiership, you should not. Because for me, right, and this is going back to the TV deal or whatever, right? We've now got 3 clubs in European football. So if we want to attract the best players, then we should not have plastic pitches. We should not have it.
No, and to be honest, I just don't think it looks a particularly great pitch either. And I mean, I don't know how many times I've actually seen, and I think I mentioned this before, there was times that Hearts would rest players because they didn't want to play in that plastic pitch, and it doesn't put Scottish football in a good light when you see that.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Naismith springs to mind.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Remember, they always used to rest Stephen Naismith as well, and Celtic used to rest Jozo Simonovic. Rangers used to rest, I think it was Jamie Murphy, because he got an ACL injury on that pitch.
Yeah. Let's just touch on Motherwell. You've already mentioned that Stephen Hamill's done a very good job. Are you surprised that he started off permanent managerial career so well at the moment?
Yeah, I am, because I was pretty critical when he got the job, because I thought, right, well, this is a cheap option, like what Celtic did when they were in, and what Hearts did when they brought in Ian Cathro. Because for me, he's not got a track record, and when he does eventually get sacked, he'll not be going back to his performance director role. So it's not really a good thing for him. But suppose it's his first step in management, and he's going to do his best. But he's got off to the perfect start, and if you're a Motherwell fan, you'll be very happy. But I think it's important for them, right, that they bring in his types of players, because I know they brought in the Stuart McCanty from Leeds, the Motherwell fan, the grew up supporter. So he obviously knows Stuart McCanty from his playing days at Motherwell. But I think it's important as well that they bring in his players, so at the end of the day, there can never be any excuses for Stevie Hamill. Because if Motherwell get to this transfer window and they've only brought in Stuart McCanty as their attacking option, that's not going to be impressive enough for Motherwell fans to go, right, well, we see where the club is going here. And we always give credit to Alan Burrows, Scottish football, because he always stands up for the fans, because he gave the Motherwell fans free season tickets and stuff like that. But see if he doesn't put his hand in his pocket, Motherwell fans will be the first ones to complain about him. Good.
So we're not expecting a 5-5 draw tomorrow then?
Sadly not for the fans that are going to put their money in their pocket. Graham, I want to ask you, do you know how much the ticket is for this game?
I'm not sure, but if it's down like the last couple of weeks, it'll not be very low. Put it that way.
Yeah, because I was actually, it was a disgrace for Hearts fans to be charged 36 and 37 quid to watch a game they couldn't even see because they were. I did see that post that was put up on social media. Basically, for people that are on the radio, it was a view where no one could possibly see the game, right? And if you paid 37 quid for that, you're going to be sitting going, right, I'm paying 37 quid for my ticket. I can't see the game. It's £3.35 for a packet of crisps and whatever else for a pie. I think it's an absolute disgrace what's happening. You know, especially during the cost of living crisis. I was listening to somebody the other night and they were saying that people were charging 300 quid for Coldplay tickets. You know, I just think it's a disgrace. People are getting less and less money because of this crisis, and we think it's okay to charge people all sorts of money for football and for other things. I think it's a disgrace.
Yep, 100%. Imagine charging any more money to go and see Coldplay. I think they're awful, but that's my opinion. But again, last night, the Hearts game cut out in the second half against the BBC Scotland. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I started to think it was my BBC iPlayer or something.
I know. I tried to find a different stream for it. It was just not sure anywhere. So I was, and then of course when it goes back, Zurich have scored. But there you go. So my prediction for tomorrow, I'm going to go Kilmarnock 0, Motherwell 1. What's your prediction?
I'm going to go Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 0.
Ooh, shock. Let's move on to Rangers against Ross County. Rangers obviously dropping points against Hibernian last week with the 2 red cards to Ludstrom and Morelos. Ross County won against Kilmarnock last week, but you were right, and we'll touch on that later, about Ross Callahan and Jack Baldwin should have had red cards. I mean, you've got to fancy Rangers strongly at Ibrox for this game.
Yep, I think it'll be a 5-star Rangers. 5-star performance because they'll be on a high. The crowd will be on a high. The crowd will be there from 2:30, enjoying themselves after a big draw in the Champions League. Everything's just all rosy in the Rangers garden. I didn't even see on social media they've been linked to Mr. CR7 in the papers.
Yeah, I did see that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They could be signing Ronaldo. He could be jetting into Glasgow Airport according to the newspapers.
Maybe it's the Brazilian Ronaldo who's about £55.
Maybe,
I mean, honest, I did see that link and I had to laugh. It's like, where does that come from? Seriously.
Maybe he's coming in to help Morelos lose some weight. You know, he's got a 6-pack to die for, so maybe he's coming in to help Morelos lose some weight.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I watched the Rangers Hibs game last week, and I mean, even though they had 2 players sent off, I don't actually think Rangers were that great last week.
No. Well, I'm saying no. I didn't really see the game. To be honest, I was watching the Spurs game, but I did see the highlights. And I thought that, obviously, what did you make of the penalty?
I had this conversation with Dave last week. Now, I know a lot of folk might not agree, but I could understand why the penalty was given. I think Bashiri did give him the option to go down, but for me, I thought it was very soft.
For me, you could understand why it was given, right? That's a great saying we always use. We've seen them given, and we can understand why it's given. For me, it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty.
I thought the Hibs one should have been given when Tavernier pulls down Bashiri. That was more a penalty than what the Cholak one was.
Suppose the only thing that, to play devil's advocate, they would say is that Paul Hanlon is shoving somebody else. I think it is.
Yeah, it was a shove on Tavernier, but I don't think there's enough in that. I think the initial contact is clearly Tavernier on Bashiri.
Yep, so are you saying if we've got VAR in Scottish football, Graham, are you saying that the Hibs penalty is overturned and that Rangers should have been given one against?
I said this last week to Dave. I think if VAR is here now, I think Hibs get the penalty. I don't think for the Rangers one it's clear and obvious, so I think that would probably stay a penalty, but I'm not sure. And then I think for the sending offs, but again, this is the thing. Again, I can understand why Lundstrom gets a red card, because for me it looked reckless and late. And again, I don't think if VR is there, I'm not sure they overturn that.
No, but to me it was a yellow, same as the Trippier one was in the Man City game. Did you see the Man City game, Graham?
Yeah.
I was on the way home from Celtic Park, and I was looking in a pub window to watch it. But yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, because if you look at it, I thought in first view it was a Stonewall sending it off. But then you kind of look at it again and you go, right, well, it's kind of those ones where he tries to break up play. It's kind of one of those ones that, remember when Redknapp used to say, you can kind of slow the game down or kind of break the game up. It's kind of one of those tackles.
I think if you actually watch Willie Collins' positioning, he's not in a decent position to see it. I think what he thinks is, Lundstrom's foot is high and it's raked down the ankles of Martin Boyle. That's the only thing that I can think that he thinks that's why that's the red card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think Willie Collins is very quick with his cards, but I still think he's a very capable referee. I thought he judged the Morelos one bang on. I know Andy Walker was saying right away that it wasn't a red, but I don't know if he changed his mind. But I think that it definitely was a red card for Morelos. So overall, the only call that Willie Collum really got wrong was on Lundstrom, but every other call he got bang on.
Yeah, even most Rangers fans, even Josh, who's on our channel, even he said the Morelos one you can't defend. So yeah, and I think in terms of tomorrow's game, I mean, Rangers will be on a high. You've just mentioned that. Do you think they'll make a few changes tomorrow?
No, I think they'll. I think it'll be the same team. I think it'll be Cholak up top. Tillman. I want to talk about Tillman because I think Tillman's a really special talent, Graham.
I've been impressed with him. He looks very creative. He's good on the ball. He likes to drive forward with that. I think he's been an excellent signing for Rangers so far.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Graham, if Bayern Munich are telling you that they're not willing to have an option to buy, that they want to keep this guy, that tells you the talent this guy that they see in this guy. That this is not just a Jota scenario where they think, right, we'll get a wee obligation to buy here, a wee option to buy. They obviously see a future for Malik Tillman.
100%. I think he's been brilliant, as is Tom Lawrence. But I think in terms of tomorrow's game, the talk always is, when it's Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, whoever, the talk always is that teams are vulnerable after European games. Do you think there's any chance that Ross County could get anything at Ibrox tomorrow?
I mean, you would never say never, but I'm going to go for a 5-star Rangers performance. I'm going to go 5-0.
Ross County are sitting ninth in the league. Again, I think I mentioned this to Dave last week. I think in the games they've played, they've had some decent spells in games, but just haven't been able to score. And then last week, they get very fortunate. They should have had 2 men sent off. And then they win the game 1-0. I mean, that's a massive boost for Malky Mackay winning that game last week.
Yeah, because let's be honest, I don't know if people seen the game live or watched the highlights, but I thought Ross County was second best all day long, and they probably deserved to get beat. So I think that's why Derek McInnes said in his press conference yesterday that he feels mugged off because Ross County were by far the worst team. They probably should have 2 men sent off. And obviously, Rangers will know, right? We try and score early and then the game will be done, because that's the most important thing if you're a Rangers or a Celtic player. See if you get through that first 10 minutes and you're 2-0 up, it's a breeze. If you wait until 60-70 minutes and there's 0-0, it can be a hard slog. I think the important thing for Ross County tomorrow is stay in the game, see if you can try and build on it. Obviously, they've got some good attacking threat, but unfortunately, from a Ross County point of view, I think from watching them last week, I don't know what you think, but I think they've got worse from last year, and I think it's only going to be one scoreline tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they really have missed Reagan Charles Cook and Joseph Hungbo. I think they've signed okay. I think Orua Edwards is a good player. But yeah, I think they do look a little bit weaker. And I think, again, it's very early in the season, but I think Ross County could be okay. I don't think they'll go down. But let's incorporate the Jack Baldwin and Ross Callaghan from last week, because for me, of all the decisions that were made last week, I think that Ross Callaghan challenge is one of the worst challenges of the weekend.
Oh.
And honestly, how the referee, who can see that, how the referee doesn't see that it's a red card is beyond me.
Graham, right. Now, I'm going to go through the referee because I think it's the obvious thing that's happened here, right? Now, that tackle was 6 minutes in the game. I think he's went, right, it's too early to send him off here. I think that's what's happened. I'm not going to say that's exactly what happened, but I just think, I think in the referee's mind, he's went, it's far too early.
It shouldn't matter how early it is. If it's a red card, it's a red card. And it's an absolutely short. It's a scissors kick. It's a scissors kick challenge. It could have seriously wrecked the boy's career, and that is absolutely appalling refereeing.
But to me, that's the only resolution I've got to. The only conclusion I can come to is that he's fought right. It's only 5 minutes into the game. It's too early to send the guy off.
If you then look at the Jack Baldwin challenge, again, it's over the top. It's very late. And again, it's a yellow card. It's a red card all day long.
Oh, that challenge is just as worse. It's really, really bad. I don't know what the referee was seeing that day. I don't know what he was doing before the game, but he certainly wasn't watching football the same game I was watching.
This is where I find it really difficult, because obviously now we know that the compliance officers looked at that, and Ross Callaghan and Jack Baldwin have both been given too much bans, which is absolutely right.
Sorry, Graham, I didn't even know that we had a new compliance officer, because I think we've hardly seen it since that ominous season where she was always retrospectively banning Celtic and Rangers players because people were putting petitions on Twitter and all that.
Yeah, we never hear from them, but they have been given too much bans. But this is the thing that really annoys me, right? They're going to get too much bans. What happens to the referee? He'll get another game tomorrow. That for me is wrong.
Yeah, I don't know who the referee was in that game, but to me it should be that if you have a bad performance, you should be accountable for it. And I don't think I've spoken to a few referees in the past on my podcasts and different interviews, and they always tell me that referees are graded on the performance. If this guy is graded in the performance, sure, you go back to the SFA and you say, right, this guy had a shocker on Saturday. I think we should just leave him at this to give him maybe mentally a rest, but also to say, look, that you need to have the convictions to go, no matter what time it is in the game. He clearly has a view in it. I'm sitting watching it and I can see the referee has got a full-scale view of it. So how can I see that he's got a full-scale view and he just go, right, break it up? And also what I know as well is I'm watching the game, right, and Derek McInnes is screaming. He obviously sees that as well.
This is the thing. This is the thing, right? I know it'll never happen, but managers after games have to come and speak. Players have to come and speak. The most protected people in football are referees. They don't have to have accountability for their actions. And for me, again, that's wrong as well.
Yeah, but he clearly sees that.
He does because he gives a yellow card, so he does see it.
And the only conclusion that I can come to is he's fought right. I'll flash my yellow because it's still in the game. And the same with the Bowman one. He's fought right. It's late on in the game. He's tired. He's been lazy. And I think this is where VR. I hate VR with a passion, but I think it's going to help us because these referees, they're incompetent. I know they don't mean to be incompetent, but clearly that one last week was so blatantly obvious.
Would you trust our referees to use VR properly, though? That's the thing that I've got a problem with.
No, I wouldn't, but that one that Sean Callahan last week. That one where how can that not be a red card? Like I said, the only conclusion that I've came to, and people can comment in, the only conclusion that I've came to is that it's 5 minutes into the game. Because, Graham, I sometimes watch referees and they say, right, the first 5 minutes will just kind of be easy Aussie and we'll see how it goes. But I think that it shouldn't matter what stage you are in the game. If it's a red card, flash the card and go, right, off you go, pal. See you later.
100%. So let's get prediction for Rangers Ross County. I'm going to go Rangers 4, Ross County 0.
I'm going to go Rangers 5, Ross County 0. I just think
you had to be one better than me, didn't you?
I just think Rangers are. No, I did predict 5-0 before you said that, Graham. I did say.
You did, to be fair. You did, to be fair.
I did say 5-star Rangers, so that would give you a clue. But
we have 20 minutes to go, and we've still got 3 games to go through. Let's go to St Mirren against Hibernian. St Mirren with a fantastic 3-0 victory against United last week. 2 goals for Curtis Main. Hibs, obviously with the draw last week against Rangers. St Mirren sitting 6th. Hibs sitting 8th. Reagan, what's your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts on this one is quite an evenly contested game. Actually, with Hibs, as much as they done well against Rangers last week, I still wasn't overly impressed with them.
I agree. I think, again, listen, we've said before, I think Martin Ball's going to be huge. But again, I don't think they offered enough. They only really showed a bit more. I think they showed a bit more desire when Rangers were down to 9 men.
Yeah, see, when Rangers went down to 9 men, they started to pepper. They started to pepper the goal. They started to bring players into play. But up until that point, I'm saying this to the guy that switched over the channel for 2 seconds during the Spurs game. But yeah, I mean, it's like I'm still not overly impressed with them. I mean, they go to the Tony Macaroni last week and they get beat 2-1. I predicted them to get beat because I just don't see that overall expectation with them. And I just think Lee Johnson will be the first manager to get his peg in the Premiership, because for me, I think Hibs are far too far open. I mean, you look at the game that they had at Easter Road as well. I mean, they should be going and trying to improve what they're doing. But even the game they played against Hearts, I still wasn't overly impressed with them. You know, they got lucky in the last seconds of the game where Boyle scored. You know, but I just think that sometimes these late goals can paper over the cracks. Would you say, Graham?
Yeah, that was actually my next question, and you've just basically answered it. What have you made of Lee Johnson so far? I don't think you're very impressed.
No, I think he'll be the first manager sacked. You're probably a bit you're probably, I don't know, but I mean, if you look at Hibs, I mean, they're in a bad state, I would say. I don't think they look impressive at all. I think it'll be a very interesting one for Ron Gordon while he try and bring a few more players in. I know his son's the head of recruitment. I'll never understand that in my life. The clubs of big statues of Celtic and Aberdeen will employ their son to be the head of recruitment. I just find it absolutely crazy. But fair enough, a job for the boys. But I just think that in terms of Hibs, I think they were looking for a big transfer window in the next 7 days, Graham, because see if they go into this time we're chatting next Friday, and see if they go into that and they're still slogging behind, and they've come away from the game this weekend with 0 points and they've got no signings in. I think you'll be looking and going, Hibs are in for a long, hard slog of a season, and the Hibs fans will not be looking forward to that. They'll be looking forward to going to the Edinburgh Fringe rather than watching Hibs.
Do you think their biggest problem is up front because they don't really have a lot of options up there?
No, they don't, and their kind of vocal point is Boyle, and Boyle's a kind of wide player, so you're kind of struggling right away that you've got Boyle there, and then you've got nobody there to really supply him with the service. because it's a kind of strange one because Boyle was brought in last week as a kind of marquee signing, but you're still kind of looking for that marquee number 9 signing.
Obviously, if we've touched on Aberdeen, we've touched on other teams that should be up there challenging Celtic and Rangers and Hearts. Do you think there's any chance that Hibs are going to be up there challenging?
No, I don't think so. So sorry to any Hibs fans tuning in, but I just don't see them. I can see them scraping the odd point against Celtic Rangers at home, but I just can't see them over a long, hard slog of 38 games putting a big fight in to do something. Because if you look at Rangers, I think the biggest problem with Rangers was that Alfredo Morelos got sent off. For Alfredo Morelos got sent off, I think Rangers win that game if it's 10 men, and that just shows you that I've got confidence that Rangers would beat Hibs with 10 men. Just shows you where Hibs are at.
Let's touch on St Mirren. Stephen Robertson didn't have the greatest of Premier Sports Cup games, but they're on a bit of a run now. They've managed to keep 2 clean sheets in a row. They've scored 3 goals last week. Robertson's got to be quite happy with that so far.
Yeah, I think he has. He was getting a bit of criticism at the start, but he's and Declan Gallagher is starting to come back into better form, and so is Main. So Main man is back. Yeah, Main man is back. So, and you've got that a couple other players. They're starting to play well as well. So, I think they're looking very good. Stephen Robinson will be just looking to build on that. In the home game against Hibs, he'll be looking to strengthen it, because if you look at it, I don't think Hibs are in the greatest form. They've drawn with Rangers, okay, but they probably didn't deserve to draw with Rangers. They got beaten in the Tony Macaroni Stadium, where Livingston fully deserved their 3 points, and then they drew with Hearts. So I think if you're a St Mirren fan and you're a betting man, then you should be going for St Mirren, because the Paisley Pandas are looking like they might get all 3 points here.
So what's your prediction for tomorrow for St Mirren against Hibernian?
Prediction is St Mirren 2, Hibernian 0.
I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go St Mirren 1, Hibs 1. Let's look at Sunday now, and you're talking about...
Is that because you're sitting on the fence in case Ron Gordon and the Hibs fans are after you, Graham? I thought you were I can see the skelters on your bum here.
Okay, St Mirren 4, Hibs no. Don't tell Hibs I said that. So no. Let's look at Sunday. You talk about the main man for St Mirren. There's not really a main man for Dundee United. Dundee United against Celtic. No. And oh my word, Regan, what an absolute mess United are in.
Yeah, they're an absolute mess, and they're in free fall. But we said that about Man United on Monday night, and then they went and beat Liverpool. So it could be a kind of, how would I say it, a baptism of fire, would you call it in football? Baptism of fire. So I think there could be a baptism of fire. I think they could come up firing. Obviously, the last time they played was when Jack and Marcus scored that goal for a draw when Celtic won the title. I'm going to say it's going to be a tight game.
United have lost 11 goals in 4 games. They've changed their keeper twice. I mean, defensively, they just look all over the place, and that's got to be a huge concern for Jack Ross.
Yeah, I mean, they look awful, but the same token, Graham, as that song used to go, things can only get better,
Well, they can't get any worse.
Things can only get better. So, I mean, if surely they can try and put up a fight. But like you say, I expect Celtic to win, probably by 2-1. I'm going to say David Turnbull gets in the act. I'll say Celtic 3-1 to Celtic.
You've actually mentioned the word there, fight. And I'm not seeing a lot of that from United so far.
No, I think the last time we've seen it was probably AZ Alkmaar at home, when they probably got ahead of themselves and thought, right, we can go to AZ and put up a fight. But the same thing last week. I want to ask you, Graham, surely the fact the fans should try and rally around them, because we've seen the crowd they got against AZ, and the crowd they got last week was atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this to Dave as well on the show, that see, when you come from a game like AZ Alkmaar in European football to then have a home game after that, it's in the Premier League, it's difficult. And I think United, they do need to rally around the club at this time. But I think for me, again, I don't know if you probably won't, but do you think Jack Ross is under pressure already?
I think this is the modern reaction to the world we can't live in. Like, if anybody does bad in any walk of life, whether it's politics, media, music, radio, football, everybody jumps on them. So I think if Dundee United, I want to get your point in this game, because there's probably 99.9% of Dundee United fans. I'm not expecting them to do well on Sunday. Would you agree with that? Because I think the important thing for them this weekend is to bring some fight, bring some determination, some grit, some firepower. Maybe get Tony Watt involved, and Mulgrew and Flagshire. Try and show that you belong at this level. And because if you go out there and you lose by 3-1, but Celtic have been 2-1 ahead until the 95th minute and they score a goal in the breakaway, then you can accept that. But if Celtic rock up there and they're 3-0 up by half time and it's an easy game, then Dundee United fans will start to call you'll be sacked in the morning with Jack Ross. So
yeah, I mean, it's that word fight. I think if you're a United fan, if I was a United fan, that's what I want to see. I want to see fight in my team. If they show that, I don't want to say it's a free hit, but you're playing against the champions.
yeah, definitely is a free hit. Definitely is a free hit, and that's what Dundee United fans will be thinking as well, surely, because Celtic are a front foot team. They'll be dominating the ball. They've got David Turnbull. They've got Haksabanovic now. Jota, Abada, Forrest, who can't get a game. Maeda, Kyogo as well, and Giakoumakis. So they've got a lot of front forward players that could definitely cause them problems. And O'Reilly, for me, is a standout. O'Reilly is a great player for Celtic.
I was, I was on the show last week with Dave on a Sunday. I was expecting to be going back to Celtic Park quite a few times for Celtic goals. They only managed to beat Hearts 2-0. I think, to be honest, they were quite comfortable. You've got to expect that Celtic will probably hammer United. I'm sorry, United fans, but I think you've got to expect Celtic will be far, far too strong.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to expect it, but you can never predict in life. I mean, it's unpredictable.
Prediction for Sunday.
Prediction for Sunday. Dundee United 1, Celtic 3.
I'm going to go United 0, Celtic 4. And the final game of the weekend is at Tynecastle, where Hearts take on St Johnstone. Now, I'm not going to lie. Normally, I would think this should be a 3-pointer for Hearts, but because of that European disappointment on Thursday, this could be a potentially tricky game for Hearts.
Yeah, definitely could. This is my story. This is a song. But yeah, I mean, it's a great song, Graham. It's honestly a brilliant song. But I think Tynecastle will be rocking again. St Johnstone, no playing too well. You'll be expecting 3 points there, because I think Hearts will want to bounce back in a proper fashion and see what they can do, because if you look at them, they're probably going to beat St Johnstone by a fair few goals, and that's just what you expect. When nobody else inside, you expect them to go there and beat teams, put teams away at Tynecastle, because Tynecastle's become that same thing that I said about Rangers in Europe. See, Tynecastle in the Scottish Premiership become a bit of a fortress.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I say this every week I'm on here, that Hearts need to start games well. That performance yesterday, that first half especially, was outstanding. And that's what we need to do on Sunday. If we do that, I think we'll have too much for St Johnstone.
Yeah, I think you will, because I think Zurich couldn't live with it. So if you're looking at St Johnstone, who are nowhere near the caliber of Zurich, then you've got to fancy your chances. And I think for Callum Davidson, he'll just be trying to stay in the game as long as possible, Graham, won't he? Because I think if they can stay in the game and try and frustrate Hearts and frustrate the crowd and get the crowd all tetchy and worked up, then that's all better for him. Because like we've seen with St Johnson, they snatched a 95th minute winner against Motherwell and Stevie Hamill's first game in charge. So I think for them, they'll just be home to stay in the game with 20 minutes to go, try and nick a goal and see where we go.
I spoke about Kilmarnock being in trouble this season. I've got to say, again, I think St Johnson looking massive trouble already.
Yeah, St Johnson look as if they've not strengthened the last year and they're just trying to survive. To me, that's what... Graham, I'm sorry to say this, but I think St Johnson are going to be the whipping boys of the season. You know, think so?
I do. I don't think they score enough goals. They don't look a threat going forward. That's a worry. They don't look a threat going forward. Stevie May is probably their best striker, and let's be honest, he doesn't score a lot of goals.
No, Graham, it's like when you buy a Lamborghini for the car auction and it's 10-year-old and you just you try and press the pedal and you go, this is not working the same. You know, if you've got an old car, you need to build it up and fix it. You know, and they've definitely not done that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say for Sunday, I think Hearts 3, St Johnstone 0.
Yeah, I'm going to say Hearts 3, St Johnstone 0. Yep, same as me.
We've got about 3 minutes to go on the show, and it's been a very busy show. And before we go, I just want to say that my good friend Reagan here, for anyone that doesn't know, and you probably do now, he's a massive Tottenham fan. And Reagan has set up a new Tottenham Hotspur Twitter and his own YouTube page. So, Reagan, tell us about all that. Tell us the details of where folk can find you on Twitter and YouTube and what the channel's about.
So, I've never been confident enough to start my own Spurs channel, but I've just thought I'm going to try it. And then I've got a few people from Spurs that are wanting to come on the show. So I'm doing my first little intro tomorrow, speak about what I'm going to do, speak about Sunday's game against Nottingham Forest, and just talk about Antonio Conte Spurs, because that's a big love of mine. So hopefully you can all follow. It's called Sensational Spurs. You can subscribe to the YouTube and you can follow at Sensational Spur as well on Twitter.
Fantastic. So anyone that wants to follow Reagan on those YouTube and Twitter, get him followed, because he is, I'm not just being biased, he's a great guy. He's a very big Tottenham fan. And to be honest, Reagan, you've got to be happy at the start you've made so far. I think Tottenham have signed some very good players. I'm a massive fan of Ivan Perisic, and I think Tottenham could have a very good season this season.
Oh, I mean, they've started well. I mean, if you look at Antonio Conte, he's built well, he's signed well, and they've started the season well. So you can't complain because they've started well. They've got Nottingham Forest this weekend, and hopefully they can build on it, Graham.
Do you think Antonio Conte can put in a title challenge this season?
I do. I predicted them to finish second at the start of the season. If you look at my Twitter, I did say they finished second. I did. In Liverpool, I think they'll finish 9 points behind Manchester City. But I think they've got a squad now that they're building, and I think they'll bring in 2, possibly 3 before the deadline, because I see Mr. Winks has joined Sampdoria.
I didn't know that.
So they'll need to strengthen in the midfield and possibly the forward areas for players that are going to leave. So, yep, I'm positive for the season.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much to Reagan for joining me. Thank you to Dave who joined me earlier on. We will be back on Sunday. I think it's me and Dave on Sunday, and we will be reviewing the fixtures from the weekend and keeping you up to date on Hearts against St Johnstone. Fingers crossed it's a Hearts win. So until next week, we'll be back at 5 o'clock till 7. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the comments, and we shall see you again next Friday, or even Sunday. We shall see you again next week. Bye-bye.